Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Guess what, folks? You know, I had sort of a lackadaisical kind of morning because in between doing my work and watching everything that's occurring on TV, madre mia, it is difficult. But I had to hear those stories. And man, I've got some woozies for you that I kind of took some pictures of on the screen. I got some videos on the screen. I lost some of them, but hey, that's okay. I've got a good solid one for you. But anyhow, we're going to have a great show for you today. What is the show title? The title of the show today is, when I get it up, it's going to be called Progressives Will Have a Blowout 2020 Election Win if we do the work. Folks, we got a lot of work to do, however, and we cannot play. We cannot play with the work that we have to do. What's the work that we got to do? Anyhow, starting up. It is clear that the stars are aligning for a 2020 election blowout win. It will only happen if progressives forget the fear. Forget the fear and go big with the corrective narrative, with the correct narrative. Election 2020 is around the corner, and many Democrats are trying to find the proper narrative. And the Democratic narrative has better be poor and middle-class centric. It better be inclusive. It better be all those things all in one. It better remember the Democratic Party is not one party to appease one group. The Democratic Party is a party to make sure that all groups are not only well represented, but also that the policies we support every single group, every single identity. People like to talk about identity politics. I love identity politics because identity politics says we are going to look at what makes things difficult for you because of your identity. We are going to make sure of all these issues and handle them, because that is how you create a mosaic. That is how you create a real system, real policy. Right now, progressives and centrists are battling about who Americans are more likely to elect. That is the wrong question. Again, they're battling. Who should we elect? A centrist or a moderate? A centrist or a progressive? That's the wrong question. The correct question is who will work hardest and honestly for the well-being of all Americans. The answer is clear, as centrists have proved how they govern and how they intend to govern. So there isn't a question here. But today is the second Wednesday of the month, or whatever Wednesday it is, every other Wednesday. And we know who that Wednesday belongs to, the first part of this show. You know who it belongs to, right, folks? Let me see if I can remember her name. Let's see if I can remember the name. Oh, it's Tamara. It's Tamara we have to bring on. So, folks, welcome, Tamara. How are you doing today, my friend? How are you doing today? You're doing.
Good afternoon, Egberto and Politics Done Right family. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, my dear. Of course, let me tell you, folks, if you hear that little background sound, not to worry, I'll clean it out in post-processing later on. But for some reason, Tamara is giving us a hum.
Oh, Lord, I hope they can't hear it. I hope I'm talking loud and we can talk over it.
Nah, listen. Now it'll be fine, and we'll clean that baby out when it's time to get it into the podcast. But anyhow, folks, Tamara, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I know you were out there at the Supreme Court. Tell me about the Supreme Court.
Oh gosh, yes. So those of you that have been watching the Supreme Court with Comcast and Byron Allen, I did go to Washington on last week. I did not make it inside the Supreme Court to hear the actual trial, but I was in the number. I was in the line outside, and There was a lot of activists that were literally there to show up and let the Supreme Court know that, you're not going to just take away our constitutional rights here.
Tamara, let me ask you to do me a favor, because a lot of people don't know what the Byron Allen issue is all about and why it's a Supreme Court case. And there's a certain danger within that Supreme Court case as well. But let's go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, so this Byron Allen challenge has been, well, actually, let's go back a step, because this case was actually won in the Ninth Circuit. So Comcast is, Byron Allen is this media mogul who has networks, and he wants to, be a part of this Comcast network, but he was discriminated against according to his case. Went to the Ninth Circuit, and he obviously won there, but he was challenged. Comcast is actually challenging the law that he used, which is the 1866 civil rights law. It was passed right after the
Civil War, yeah.
Yeah, and that was what he used. And in this law, it talks about contracting. It's the section 1981. I'm going to read it to you. It says that all persons within the jurisdiction of the United States shall have the same right to make and enforce contracts. And it talks about that as is enjoyed to basically the white citizens. So that was the legal battle that grew between Comcast and Byron Allen. Byron Allen obviously won. So this is being challenged in the Supreme Court. The whole 1866 law is being challenged in the Supreme Court.
Which is the danger. That part is the danger, because we have a right-wing Supreme Court. And Byron appeared on the Breakfast Club a few weeks ago, and one of the guys asked Byron, "Wait a minute, you decided for your particular issue with the broadcast business to use this law. Do you realize if they turn you down at the Supreme Court, you've not only hampered the law for yourself, but you've actually taken a complete civil rights law out of commission?"
But you know what? I see this as Comcast taking this battle way too far, because they're the ones that have taken it to the Supreme Court.
I agree with you. First of all, I agree 100% with you. It's not Byron. Byron is using a legitimate law to say, I am discriminated against, why I can't get all my TV stations on the Comcast networks and everywhere else. But he's using the right law. Now, the Ninth Circuit Court says, yes, he's right. But the Supreme Court, which is a master law of the land, if they turn it down, that throws a lot of things into question. And I was happy to see that Byron pushed back when they said, well, you're actually putting a lot of the laws in danger. I mean, a lot of other folks in danger. And it's like, well, put it this way.
He's fighting white supremacy. I mean, this is bigger than just Byron Allen. This is about the powers that be. And they brought this to the Supreme Court.
No. I think what is important to Tamara, and I think you got that right, and that is if he loses that case in the Supreme Court, that means Congress must act right away. And if they don't act, then we really have, then there are going to be some very serious issues in this country.
Because discrimination is real. And, we start saying that you have to prove it in its entirety, which is what Comcast is saying.
Exactly.
Discrimination has to be proven in its entirety, as not just a part of, of his suit. It takes us back to pre-Civil War, and that takes us all the way back to slavery, Egberto. Yeah,
I mean, people don't get it, right? I mean, a lot of folks says, "Oh, well, look, I mean, you're free now or whatever." What I'm trying to do, you and I are working two different ends of the candle. One of the things that I'm trying to show folks is right now it is potentially Byron Lee and people of color are the ones that are under attack by the Supreme Court, so that a few can maximize on their profits with, by not allowing him into the fold. What they really want to do is take the cross section that he has, right? Now, people say, oh, well, that's only those people. Well, eventually the corporatocracy runs out of people to eat, and then they start to eat their own. So the way I'm framing the debate right now, you are framing the debate in a very important fashion, but I'm also framing the debate in, hey, other people, you're next.
And this is why, what we do, Egberto, is so important with independent media. we got to have our own lane and we got to have our own voice, because they can't control what the world sees and hears and understands. And that's exactly what's happening in politics, and that's exactly what's happening in the media. They are they want to control the narrative. And people like us are so important because we totally push back on that.
And we totally push back. We have to push back. And what we need is for others to join the fold. Like what I tell people right now, right, is a lot of folks say, well, how can I help? How can I make a difference? I'm like, you see what we're doing here? We need a lot more. Generally speaking, people don't like competition. We love competition. We need a lot more people doing this kind of stuff. And we need to interface together. All these people doing this kind of work, interfacing together, so that we become in Coffee Party we call it be the media, where where we unite folks from all different spheres into a conglomerate. It's loosely connected, but into a conglomerate that actually can achieve something, and that is what we need to do. Go ahead, Tamara.
And it'll we become the loudest voices in the room when we start to come together and collaborate, and we have all these different networks that, it's us. It gives so much validity because people know us, they trust us.
Right.
I don't trust traditional media. I don't know what they're feeding us.
Right. And I think, that is so important because, and I see this sort of on a little scale, right? Because you do your program, Tamara for Georgia, and you have your sphere of influence, right? And I do Politics Done Right. I have my sphere of influence. There's something that I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen it. I've already gotten crossover, which means now we're building that network, because there are some people that are now seeing Politics Done Right and vice versa that had never, that we are actually expanding the horizon as far as, hey, if you want to learn something about ADOS and the real reason from ADOS, well, you're not coming to Politics Done Right to hear that, but you sure can go to Tamara for Georgia to hear about that and see the reasons why we have to do these different things. So, and we need to have a hell of a lot more voices for items I don't cover, for items you don't cover, that are out there, because there are so many different things to cover. So folks, if you're listening to me and you want to start your own network as well, let's go ahead and get busy in doing it. Go ahead, Tamara.
And we don't all know everything. Like certain areas of expertise are yours. That's why you come on our broadcast on Fridays and give a national perspective, because you see the landscape nationally. You're like a hawk. You're out there and you're flying over and you're seeing it all. I'm really focusing on what's happening in Georgia politics. I'm drilling down to see what's going on in the state.
Don't sell yourself cheap. You're doing more than Georgia politics. A lot of what you're doing is a lot deeper than Georgia politics, because that expands to all throughout the country, which is very, very important. And that's why I say, we're not just directing Georgians to Tamara for Georgia. Maybe you should change it to Tamara for America or something like that.
Well, I'll just tell you that there's so many people in Georgia, Egberto, who aren't connected politically.
Right.
They don't have their eyes and ears on politics. And, people are trying to get to work every day, and people are trying to feed their families, and they're trying to survive, and they're trying to make it. So if we're able to get out here and keep an eye on those that are pulling all the strings, we become that trusted voice and that trusted resource. So we're doing great work, Egberto.
Absolutely.
I know we all are.
Hey, Tamara, Bruce says, hello, Miss Tamara.
Hi, Bruce.
Miss Tamara, wow. He says, hey, brother to me, right? He says, he doesn't say, hey, Mr. Egberto or Mr. Will. He says, hey, brother. You know I love that, Bruce. I love you too, Bruce. Bruce, I love you, Bruce Davis. Anyhow, but yeah, but Tamara, what we're doing here is important work. What else do you have to tell me? How is the senatorial, well, you don't like senatorial. How is your Georgia Senate campaign going?
This is exciting. Today's the 20th, right? Isn't tonight the Democratic debate?
Tonight is a debate, yes.
Yeah, so Atlanta's probably on fire downtown, yes. I'm sure.
Well, it's at the studios, though. It's at
Tyler Perry Studios.
Yes. That's not downtown, is it?
It's closer to downtown than it is to me.
Okay, got it.
I'm a little further out from the city. But yeah, so the Democratic debate is tonight. A lot of activity, for those of you that don't know, Georgia is, a true battleground state in 2020, because we will have 2 U.S. Senate races on the ballot at the same time. So we know, Egberto, all eyes will be on Georgia watching these U.S. Senate seats. And I am running. I am Johnny Isaacson is ill, so that's why we have 2 U.S. Senate races on the ballot. So the governor is going to appoint. He actually cut off, I believe, his application process to appoint someone. So he should be announcing any day now who he's actually going to appoint to Isaacson's seat. Isaacson will step down at the end of the year. So when he steps down, that race becomes a jungle primary in November. When we call those jungle primaries, I'm not sure if that's language that people
No, yeah,
understand.
we know what it is. We have it all over. I mean, in other words, both Democrats and Republicans would run in the same race.
Yes, so in that particular race where Isaacson's seat, whoever that appointee is, those of us that want to run against the appointee will be in that race, and I will be in that race.
So you're running in a jungle primary.
I am.
And that is when the same time.
November. It's on the presidential ballot in November.
And that is a 2-year term or?
Well, whoever wins will fill out his 2-year term. Well, 2 more years, and then in 2022 we'll have to run again.
Okay, that's good.
We'll finish out the remainder of Isaacson's term.
Now, is it a winner take all, or is it that the last 2 have to go to a runoff?
Last 2 have to go to a runoff. So if we don't get 50% plus 1, if somebody does not, then it'll be a runoff. I think early January.
And those jungle primaries usually have a hell of a lot of people in there, so that's good, and that gives you a pretty good chance, because what you do is you solidify your base, and then you make sure that your base go out there, and then you hope that some other person sneaks in.
There it is. It's going to be very exciting. All eyes will be on Georgia and Egberto. Like I said, we're making history here in the state of Georgia.
Well, I'm calling Georgia for blue in 2020. In fact, I'm calling for a blowout election in 2020, as you can see as the title of the show today. And I think that, I'm saying 2020 is going to be a blowout with a caveat. If we get a centrist to run as a Democrat, the centrist will win. But the centrist will win with sort of those 52% or something like that. If we get a progressive out there and we get our base to go out and talk not only to Democrats but to Republicans and others, we are going to have such a blowout that nobody is going to see it coming. And I'm calling it right now. I am calling it right now that if we follow the tenets of, in other words, if you notice, Obama came out and Obama really took himself several notches down, because he came out and said that we are wanting to, America doesn't want transformational change. America just, in effect, he was talking incrementalism. It wasn't the same hope and change person that we ran in 2008. It wasn't the hope and change candidate. It was a candidate that it was clear he was breathing the rarefied air of the Wall Street and the plutocracy and the oligarchy, whatever you want to call it. And in my mind, it was, oh my God, we've lost another one, which is exactly what has happened. I love the guy for what he has done. I'm not going to take away what he has done. But as far as giving hope to a lot of people, that meaning that now Tamara knows she can run in Georgia and win. Mm-hmm. Other people know that they can win now. But what he has done is he's taken out the air out of a lot of people who had a lot of faith in that he was going to go out there and says, people, go fight for what's yours.
Yeah, it was disheartening. And you said it. I think the key word here is done, D-O-N-E. He's done.
Yes.
He's done. He's done what he could do for this country. He moved the needle, and that's it. And it's time for us, those of us that are progressive, we got our ear to the ground. We know what's happening. We're real clear about what's going on around us. And he's not. He's selling out arenas, and he and Michelle are doing bigger, greater things.
Well,
they don't really have their ear to the ground the way we do.
And that is sort of upsetting to me, especially for our good friend, his wife, Michelle. And let me tell you what hurt me. Michelle came, I think it was here to Houston, and she had this humongous thing with her book, right? And to get in, it was several $100s to go watch her talk about her book. Let me tell you, if I came into power with a hope and change message, and not only if I came with a hope and change message, but I talk about being a grassroots organizer and a person of the people, I would finally make myself available to people. And since I can now sell out an arena the size of the Toyota Center or where the football players are, I would have my event in there for $5 so that everybody who wants to come can come in, and the only way I'm making it $5 is because if you don't put some sort of control on, you're probably gonna have lines all over the place. Now I would make it $5 and take that money and give it away. And the reason
Celebrityism.
right, and the thing about it, it hurt me that they don't understand. You know what? When I talk about the wealthy being a difficult pathology, when is enough enough?
Yeah, it reminds me too of I was out yesterday and I heard this man say that he, and it broke my heart. And when you go back to you saying when is enough is enough, he said that he piles money in his savings account, Egberto, until he figures out what to do with it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, the greed. I got so stuck in that. I was like, I can't believe this man just said out loud that he piles money in his savings account until he can figure out what to do.
Well, you see
when
what
is enough is enough.
What people don't understand, right, is they think they have own money is something that we created as a society so that we could trade and that sort of thing. But somehow people have I've gotten grasp that the accumulation of capital is something. Those people who are big land owners. I wonder how many of them thought about, well, how did this land come to become yours in the first place? How can somebody well, anyhow. But that's a different thing. Tamara, give me a closer because I got to get to my end of my program. So give me your closer.
Yeah, so let's be on the lookout. Y'all keep an eye on Georgia. We are making true history here. You get ready to say something, Egberto. Go ahead. I saw
The only reason I did that is because I heard you say, we are here in Georgia. And I was like, oh, listen to the Southern Belle. Georgia?
Georgia? What's wrong? Egberto, I am from the South, okay?
I know. Go ahead, make your closer.
You just threw me all out of sorts. But pay attention to Georgia. We're doing great things. So pay attention. Tonight is the debate. I am on the ballot in 2020. You can join me on Fridays here on Facebook and YouTube for Tamara for Georgia. I hate now I'm all self-conscious about saying Georgia.
No, I like the Georgia, but let me just say one other thing because you sold yourself not as expensive as you are. She's also now on Periscope. Thank you so kindly.
Yes, I am.
You are now on Periscope as well, too. So you're on Periscope, you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook Live, and a couple others. Twitch is next. Anyhow, folks, Tamara, thank you so kindly for being with us. As usual, you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, Egberto.
Bye-bye. Folks, that was Tamara, who is now running for the Senate. We are going to make sure that she wins the Senate. So I don't know if her page is up yet for taking campaign contributions yet. But folks, do remember that what we need to do is go ahead and say we are going to support the grassroots. We're going to start doing that. Anyhow, folks, welcome aboard the second half of Politics Done Right. We have a hell of a lot to go over. Like I tell you, the title of the debate today or the conversation is we are going to win 2020. Not only are we going to win 2020, we are going to win 2020 big. How are we going to win 2020 big? Because we are going to talk for once to the people. We are going to approach the people. We are not going to just let things be like we always let things be. When you hear people say, oh, we need to go to the center because if we don't go to the center, we are not going to win the votes. No, we don't want to just go out there and have people vote for us. We want to go out there and have people, we want to go out there and earn people's votes. You know why it is that everybody has to tack to the center whenever they claim they're going to the main part? For two reasons. That's a status quo position. That's a position that the plutocracy wants you to be. That is where they want to have you. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to go ahead and share this program. If you're just joining us, please remember to go share the program. I think I have myself forgotten to do my necessary shares to ensure that this stuff goes through. But anyhow, so a lot of people are saying we need to tack to the center. Folks, we do not need to tack to the center at all. What we need to do is go out there and give people reasons to vote for progressives. It's not all that difficult. You know why it's not all that difficult? Because the things that we support, the things that we're telling people we want to offer them, are the things that they say they want. So let's not be fooled by what President Obama came out and said recently, let's not be fooled by what a whole lot of people are trying to have you believe, that somehow we must tack to the center. It is not true. What Elizabeth Warren is talking about, what Bernie Sanders is talking about, is exactly what the rest of America is talking about, is exactly what the rest of America wants. Anyhow, title of the show, as I mentioned before, is Election, or rather progressives will have a blowout 2020 election win if we do the work. And I asked a specific question. I said, right now, progressives and centrists are battling about who Americans are more likely to elect. That is the wrong question. The correct question is, who will work hardest and honestly for the well-being of all Americans? The answer is clear, as centrists have proven already what they will do, what they've done when they govern. Now it is time. Now it is time for us to see what a progressive government look like. And if there is a time to do that, that time is now. The city is ripe. The county is ripe. The states are ripe. The country is ripe. They have seen what centrism has done. They've seen what a crazy has done. They've seen what the right wing has done. And every single one of these policy positions that have been put into effect so far has made Americans poorer, have put Americans in debt, have taken away their future, has ensured that 80% of Americans now cannot get sick. 80% of Americans, if they had a $400 bill today, they would be in trouble. Is that the America you want? Is that the America you want to continue with? I am absolutely sure. I am absolutely sure that is not the America that you want. So anyhow, I had a person on the show yesterday on my Politics Done Right show on KPFT 90.1. And what I want to do, I forgot to cue her up, but as I'm speaking now, I'm getting ready to cue that thing up, because this touched my heart, and what I want to do is I want to play it first, okay? I want to play this first. And the reason I want to play it first is I want to then build the narrative around it. So here we go, and we'll move on from there. So we have to be honest in the debate. We have to be honest when we start to say these things. And I'm so happy that you called in as a person on the right, because that is what I want to foment. I want to be able to sit down with somebody on the right and say, hey, I don't agree with you on this, okay? In fact, you and I probably have zero agreement on sort of the kind of ideological issues on religion and all of that. But you know what? It's your business, it's my business. But when it comes to economy, I care about your economic well-being. I care about you I care about your kids having a good school to go to. I care about you having good health care. I mean, just as a human being, right? I genuinely care about all those things. And I don't care if you're a Christian, a Muslim, an atheist, or whatever. You're a human being. You have feelings. You feel pain. You feel hurt. I don't feel good when I see other people there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So look, anything else you want to add, Janice?
No, I just really, honestly, it's very refreshing to hear this kind of conversation on air, because you don't see a lot of open conversation to the right and left. It's strictly divided, so it's nice to have a conversation, but to remind everybody, like, you know, we're all in this together, and, you know, we need to think back upon, like, where we stand as far as hierarchy as far as wealth, because we aren't there. Both right and left, you know, whether you vote Republican or Democrat, you don't have the money. So, you know, think on that.
Look, Janice, Look, Janice, first of all, I want to say thank you for your words. I appreciate you calling in. And I want to tell you, please tell folks about us. Tell folks about this show. Tell folks that this is where we got to go. And you can play your part as well. Like I tell people, I don't turn the other cheek. I just don't let the other cheek fall off. Okay, so what one of the reasons that I brought that, I was so happy that she called Janice. She made my day because she is confirmation of something that I'm trying to put in the ethos out there. One of the things that, one of the reasons why you constantly hear people talk about let's tack to the center, has a lot to do with justifiable fear, right? The folks have you believe in the way the plutocracy has allowed the message to go, right? Is to have that fear that the only way you can get something accomplished, the only way you can move forward is to move to some mythical center. And they have reasons to show you that, well, you know, the person in the Midwest are not going to support these policies that all you crazies on the coast want to support. But interestingly, somebody living in the middle of the ghetto in Houston is not all that much different than somebody living in the middle of the ghettos elsewhere. And those are the things that we have to start showing people. The commonality of what's going on, right? We have to start showing the commonality, because what has happened is there are two destructive things that have been done. One is to demonize government, make government some external entity that people hate. If you can do that, then you create distrust within the government, which is what they want to do, which they have done to some part successfully. But número dos, the second thing that you want to do is you want to create severe factionalization, right? You want to create all these different factions. Let people believe that they are so different from the other that they lose not just respect, but that they don't trust that all the things that they're doing is going to somebody else. That's the other thing that they like to do. And what we have to do, the only way to arrest that is for us to have what I call total engagement. And total engagement means exactly that. Total engagement. You don't cede yourself to say, I am not going to go to this part of town because that is a conservative town. I'm not going to go to this part because it's liberal, progressive, or I'm only going to go. It's time for us to stop preaching to the choir and start opening our horizon. So with that, what I want to do, first let me go ahead and bring it up, is I want to go to the blog of the week. So folks, you know how I start that baby. I go like this and say, folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, like I said, I was inspired to write the blog post because of the call I received from a young woman. Her name is Janice, yesterday on my KPFT 90.1 FM show. And I cut that little piece out. I could have cut a little bit more, but I wanted to keep it real short to kind of get the essence of what her message was. So I wrote, the title of the blog is, I think this conservative caller to my radio show is a canary in the coal mine. Meaning, I think she gets it, and not only does she get it, but there are a lot of other people like her out there. You listen to what she had to say. It's not about right or left. It's not about Democrat or Republican. At this point in our history, it's a lot more. And here's a blog that I wrote. It is clear to me, from my experience in my own community, a very red, conservative community, people who stumble on to my radio show, Politics Done Right, this show, both here and on the air, and from a recently attended Bridge Alliance conference, that the fever is breaking. People yearning for dialogue need a path to spaces. We need to give people that opportunity, that they can come and say that they're not maligned because they're trying to meet you halfway, that they're not maligned because they want to kind of see things through your eyes. You want to kind of see things through their eyes. We have to get to that point. It's not enough to just say I am right and you are wrong, because I'm not always right, I'm not always wrong. There are certain values that we all have that are inalienable to us or the people who think like us, but most of those values are universal to both of us. And the only way for us to not see that is for us to have an external force out there trying for us to ensure we don't see that, trying to make sure that we are so much at each other's throats that we cannot see those who are really harming us. So, this caller to my radio show wanted it known that she is on the right. I mean, that is one of the first things she said when she called. She wanted us to know she was not a progressive. She was not a liberal at all, okay? But she enjoyed the show. She enjoyed calling it. She enjoyed having a platform on which to speak, a platform that she can have anytime she wants on Politics Done Right. Any progressive, any liberal, any conservative, anybody can call up to this show and have their platform and say what they believe. That's a great thing about independent media that we have control over, as opposed to something that is being force-fed on us. Now, most importantly, she came to a conclusion many of us should come to sooner rather than later. Folks, and if you want to call in, the telephone number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812 if you want to add your 2 cents as well. What ails America should not be frictions between Democrats or Republican, conservative or Democrat, black, white, or other, or any of these ideological or demographic differences, these different ideas. That shouldn't be. We should have no friction between these. It is really a class issue. And if you remember my book, I kind of pointed some of that out in, as I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. And by the way, you can either go to my website, egbertowillies.com/books, or I don't remember, just egbertowillies.com and click on books, or you can go directly to amazon.com and find the book. But please, the book is not all that young, but the book still holds true, because I've been preaching this stuff for a very long time. The other day, somebody said, I can't believe some of what you're saying, Egberto. And I said, didn't you read the book? I mean, not because you're nice. Well, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But anyhow, what ails America should not be the friction between Democrat and Republican, conservative and progressive, black, white, or other, or any other ideological or demographic differences. It is really a class issue. Interestingly, the billionaire class seems to want the status quo and centrism, and they are willing to pay for it and manufacture false narratives. So you see, when the people attack me, oh, you're going to let us lose by talking about all that progressive stuff, or talking about centrists, or the centrists you're going to cause us to lose. No, I'm not going to cause us to lose. I'm going to cause us to win. If we can get rid of the centrists, we'll win. But I don't necessarily want to get rid of the centrists. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about getting progressives in. The centrists will fall in line. But progressives have policies out there that's not only relegated to progressives, but to every American citizen. Every one of those bottom 80, 90% would love the policies. Recently, I wrote the piece, Progressive Ideas on the Fringe is a calculated fraud on Americans, where I said the following, and here it goes. I said the following. Of course, most are coming to the realization that it is just a game they are playing. Actually, it is a fraud. It is a fraud. It is about convincing Americans that the policies that will reverse all the bad things that have happened to them over the last 40 years are on the fringe, on the left. As such, they say Americans won't support it. But Americans have been slowly waking up, and the polls show it. That woman who called, when Janice called, she showed it. She showed that she's willing to listen. She's willing to talk. She's willing to give her ideas. She's willing to take others in. That is where we need to be. The lie that there is not enough money to pay for all the above and more is just that, a lie. America is a rich country. It's just that there are a few people that are hoarding capital, stealing your labor, stealing your own wealth. When you start to pay excess when you are paying a high price for medical insurance and somebody who works for a corporation pays a little bit, both of you have the same sickness and you go to the poorhouse and they don't, just because they can take more money from you than they can the other. It's called the pilfer. It's called extracting from you, somebody getting rich off of you. A few Americans decided to create an economic system that values capital over humanity, allows a few to hoard the capital created on the backs of others. Adjusting our economic model that values humanity's worth would be transformational for most. Obama used to be that transformational president, or rather that transformational candidate who wanted to come in and make this be realized, but got into office and we allowed him to toe the line. We can't do that again. The problem is that unlike the moral wealthy, like the patriotic millionaires and the likes of Nick Hanor, too many of our wealthy enjoy being pathologically selfish, evil, and inhumane plutocrats. And unfortunately, there are few politicians in both parties who are nothing but their wards, and by nature of their association are the conduits for turning the plutocrats' dollars, read bribes, into narratives and policies that confuse and ultimately drains the wealth of most Americans. Even our Americans on the right are starting to realize the con, and it may happen fast enough in 2020 for a landslide if progressives get out there and engage everyone. And folks, that is where you come in. A lot of us think we don't have the option to do so. We do. A lot of us think we can't. We can. Let me go and start reading what people are saying. I am assuming that most of the people listening in are familiar with Studs Terkel's American Dreams Lost and Found. The chapter in The Country where he interviews C.P. Ellis shows how those in power try to split people apart in order to stay in power. There's an audio of it as well, but he tells Studs about his journey from Klansman to a person whose best friend is a black woman. If anyone is not familiar, it will touch your heart and shows how transformation is possible when this dynamic is exposed. Oh man, thank you, Rose. Rose, thank you. That is the biggest fear, and that is why we have those people who continue to push division among us. And that is why you have folks like myself and others trying to say, we are not going to fall for the division. We are not going to allow them to keep us divided. Rose Williams as well says, college. Oh, that is a link to the PDF. The particular excerpt can be found here. Oh, thank you so kindly, folks. She left the script there, and on PBS and Unlikely Friendship. That I think I saw that was a while back. Okay, Just Me says, there is a majority in this nation, it's a 90% of Americans who are being harmed by the agenda of the ultra-rich. That includes everybody, Democrats, Republicans alike, left, right, and center. And that is why, and you know, Just Me, that is why what I preach is not, when I talk about people, whenever I am attacking anybody, it has nothing to do with my right-wing brothers and sisters, my left-wing brothers and sisters, or anybody else. It really does not anymore. I can say in the past, I fell into the same trap everybody else had fallen into, where you start attacking all the average middle-class folk. How could you vote that way? How could you not vote? You started to say all those things. Then I started to realize that a lot of this is trained behavior, and all of us can be trained, right? All of us can be, peer pressure has a lot of power. There's a whole lot of things in here that we've trained. Now, over the years, I've trained myself not to fall for that. And one of the things and the reason that I created what I'm doing here with with new media and trying to get the message out, and not only trying to get the message out, but try to get the message out with a certain amount of dignity to earn the respect of those who normally wouldn't respect somebody like me. In other words, somebody who would think that, oh my God, why would I listen to you? I tell this story all the time, but I want to tell it again for those who've never heard it. And just to show you that all of us want the same things. I was sitting down in a Starbucks, and if you've heard this story before, forgive me, but so we'll hear nothing about it. No, I don't think I've ever called Lee Grant. I don't think I've ever called anybody a deplorable. I don't think I've ever maligned my right-wing brothers and sisters. I mean, you see how Ledo and all these guys come and they call me all kinds of names. And I think I've always been measured with them, and I've never called them by any names or anything because I think it's counterproductive. It's bad enough that one person on one side is going berserk. Why let it be both sides? You don't get the conversation going. So I've learned to be able to take a whole lot, and I do. And if at some time you see me not doing that, if I fall out of character at some time, you just have to make me aware of it, and that'll be corrective. But to show you how much the same we are, right? I'm sitting down in a Starbucks, and this woman comes and she sits next to me, and I think she initiated the conversation. I think this is the woman. I don't remember, but I think this is the woman that says, "I see you in here all of the time. What do you do?" And I didn't quite tell her that I was a progressive blogger. I don't remember what I said, but we got into this conversation about healthcare, and I don't remember exactly what started the conversation, but I started to tell her the kind of healthcare system that I would like, and I never said Medicare for all. I never said any of that. Again, like I said, I'm in a very, very conservative red area. I started talking about, going in with a card, not having to do money, getting the stuff out of general funds. I started explaining things like drugs really being developed by us, and a lot of things took her by surprise. Oh, I didn't realize that. Well, then why are we paying so much for? All these things. When we had a civil conversation where it was not confrontational, she was able to take in all of this and started coming up with her own ideas, right? So then, after she started, I started going on to the subject, and she was eating all of this stuff up, and she loved it, and she was partaking of it. This little sense of guilt came over me, and like, I think I better let this woman know that I'm a very left-wing progressive person, because I don't want her to think that I just was, I wanted to just come out and say it that way. And after I came out and I said, ma'am, I just want to let you know, we agree, but interestingly, I'm a left-wing progressive guy. I'm really one of them liberals you talk about. And then she looked at me. She turned very red in her face, and she looked at me straight in my eyes. And then she said, but you're so nice. And I said, ma'am, the caricature that you see on Fox News about what a liberal or a progressive look like is just that, a caricature. And then I said, there's a group here in Kingwood called Liberal Ladies Who Lunch. You should have lunch with them sometime. They would show you how welcoming they could be. And I want to throw this on the other side too, because all during the heights of the Tea Party movement, I wrote something, and I think it was Daniel Boone's family somewhere in Katy took exception to something that I wrote. And they invited me to go to, it was sort of a redneck club on the west side of Houston. And I went over there, and, after getting a few looks, black man, Latino, funny talking guy comes into the place. I got some interesting looks, but, nothing confrontational or anything, but, some interesting looks. And I went into the place, and then all these folks came in, and I did a whole lot of interviews, and we spoke, and we talked, and folks started to realize, I started to realize first of all, the caricature of all Tea Party. Now, there are some racist, terrible Tea Party folks, and it's the same folks that Rose is talking about out here, Rose Williams here on the page. But, the regular average people that just kind of try to tie on to something, peer pressure, and they tie on to some ideology or whatever, because that's where all the other people that look like me are or whatever. These are not bad people. Are some racist? Yeah. Are a lot of them racist? Yeah. But a lot of liberals, a lot of progressives are racist too. You know, I can tell you stories about going to Netroots, the biggest progressive gathering on the planet, where I can, so I don't fall for the hoopla. I try to meet people where they are, and I enjoyed, and when I tell you, I legitimately enjoyed these Tea Party people who embraced me. I know they were trying to prove a point. I understand they were trying to prove a point. We're not racist. Look how nice we treated you. I know that. But deep inside, a lot of these people had some fears that the plutocracy put on them, because the plutocracy want them to fear another half of the population, so that those two parts of the population fight as they rip us all off. And that is what I every day I will be preaching that message at some point in some form. That most people that you walk into, Republicans or Democrats, left, right, I don't care who they are basically good people just trying to survive, just trying to make it. And a lot of these divisions come from what people want to do. Folks, if you want to give us a call, I'll take calls up for another 5 minutes or so. 646-716-5812, 646-716-5812. Mike Chalk says, money is a token representing hard work, created to allow us to trade our labor with each other. Wealth doesn't grow on Wall Street. It is dug out of the ground with dirt-stained hands and hammered out of ore mixed with sweat and blood. But somewhere we decided those facilitating the transfer of our labor deserves more than those of us who create the wealth. Mike Chalk, who are you? Can you call in, Mike Chalk? Man, do I want to hear from you. That I am going to copy this. I am copying this and I am stealing this from you, brother. That is so well said. That is so well said. If that is your words, power to you, Mike Chalk. If you could call in, I would love for you to call in, Mike Chalk. I want to read this again for the audience, for the podcaster, for the people who are listening to this on podcast. Money is a token representing hard work, created to allow us to trade our labor with each other. Wealth doesn't grow on Wall Street. It is dug out of the ground with dirt-stained hands and hammered out of ore mixed with sweat and blood. But somewhere we decided those facilitating the transfer of our labor deserve more than those of us who created wealth. What Mike Chalk is saying there, since when did the stockbroker, since when did the banker, since when did they who didn't get their hands dirty, who don't go out there and do an honest day's work, deserve to make orders of magnitude more than we do? When did the CEO deserve to make 500 times what the average salary at that location is? Those words are prescient. Those words are present. Any other comments before I kind of get close to shutting this baby down? Just go ahead and put it in there so that I can read it. But man, as I've always said, I have some of the most in-depth listeners, watchers, and all of that. And I hope, here's my hope to the folks that listen to the show here, that you leverage what we are saying here, that you share this stuff. But not only that you share it, but that you put yourself out there on the line as well. Because with your words, listen to what Mr. Chuck had to say. Those words are so well written. So well written. Anyone can understand that. Anyone can understand that. Mike Chuck, thank you so kindly for those words. I love those words. Okay, folks, please, if you're just joining us, please remember to share these programs all of the times. Even if you're watching it not live, please go ahead and share it. I need you to share these programs. Now, also, please do remember that this is a progressive show that needs your support. We work on the support that you give the show. You know that you want valid information. You know that you want folks that are that are there not only to support people, but are there to empower people. That's what we do. We don't only stay behind the keyboards and talk in a camera. We're out there in the field as well. As you know, I was in D.C. a couple weeks ago. I was with the National Organization of Women doing some interviews and taping, and I'm being on a panel out there. You can find all of that on the YouTube channel. So, I mean, there's a whole lot that we go out there and do, that we'll continue to go out there and do, but we are going to be spreading the message. We're going to be making sure that Americans get the progressive message. And even if you're on the right, we're going to make sure that you get the progressive message from real progressives, so that we can tell you what we stand for. We are sure that some of what we stand for, you are going to be with us, and you will be forming a part of that team that gets this message out. So we need you. We need all of you to also please chime in and support the page. Please go to politicsdoneright.com. Politicsdoneright.com. I'm going to throw that onto the screen right now. Politicsdoneright.com. And what I'm going to put in the in the message here is to say, please. What I want to say, please support and subscribe. Please support and subscribe to Politics Done Right. And you know where you do that? Right. Let me show you where you do that. You go to http:// patreon.com/Politics Done Right. I just put that both on let's say YouTube. I just put that on where else? Twitch. I just put that on Periscope, and I just put that on Facebook. Please consider becoming a supporter. We are very inexpensive. And likewise, if you're on YouTube, you can easily just go and do what we call a super chat, and your messages get placed to the top of the list, that I can take a look at the screen right here and see, hey, somebody liked Politics Done Right, and they gave us a super chat. But folks, like I tell you, we do need your support. It looks like I spelled that wrong. I spelled that wrong. I spelled it wrong, so let me go ahead and do it right. Sorry for that. The correct thing is to say Politics Done Right. I spelled it wrong, so anybody go there, they will get a 404, but I will fix that right now so that everybody can get the right information. It is politics, not politics done right. It is Politics Done Right. Okay, it is corrected now, and when I click on it, I get to our page. So please, folks, consider becoming a member at patreon.com/politicsdoneright, or just go to politicsdoneright.com and click on Patreon, or one of the other ways that you can find to help support the program. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.